Hey guys, welcome back. Today I wanted to talk a little bit about Benebell Wen's Spirit Keepers Tarot. And I'm going to refer to some notes just so that I don't forget anything. But to be clear, this is not a full walkthrough. You can find wonderful walkthroughs from other tarot YouTubers who got early dibs on the deck. And I'm sure as more people receive their decks and work with them, there will be future wonderful walkthroughs that you can refer to. But I wanted to take the time to give you my personal experiences with the deck so far. I will admit that I was a little bit hesitant about this deck. I love Benebell and I wanted to support her, and I thought it was so cool that she created her own deck. And but we all know, she's a walking citadel of knowledge, and this deck is meant to be a deep dive into occultism and esotericism. And I just thought to myself, is this deck for me? Is this going to be too over my head? Am I even really interested in esotericism, occultism? Not really right now. Is this going to be beyond my depth? So full transparency here, I was intimidated. And of course, it's not Benebell's intention to be intimidating. And in fact, she says that she designed this deck with the goal of making it accessible for anyone and everyone to use. And so I kind of wanted to test that out. I did buy the Book of Maps, but even though I received it some weeks before I even got the deck, I decided I wasn't going to read it. Even though I really wanted to, I was like, I'm actually going to hold off on reading it. I'm not going to look at any of the videos that she has on YouTube now as part of the series to complement working with the deck. I decided I am just going to go off the little white book and my working knowledge of RWS and just the cards. Benebell does specify that she has designed this so that if you are knowledgeable or have a working knowledge of RWS or Thoth, you should be good to go. And I'm only going to speak in terms of RWS because I'm not familiar with Thoth. And she even says that you can scrap all of that and not rely on any system and just use it intuitively. Benebell has also flat out said that she thinks that the little white book is useless. She's like, this is useless. I just did it because I knew the deck needed an obligatory little white book, but if you really want to know what's going on, buy the Book of Maps. For those of you who look at this and are like, no, I can't even with that right now, then this is quite useful. So what she says in the little white book, she says flat out in the beginning, the little white book is not the Book of Maps and only offers a general overview of the deck's architecture, my design purpose and intent for the deck, with only short excerpts from the Book of Maps. All true. She also goes on to briefly touch on her specific intent for the deck. She says, the final result, I hope, is a working tarot deck that will read like a sacred text, one imparting directly to you the divine word. Readings with the Spirit Keepers Tarot are representative of communion with your higher angels. So I worked with the deck for about 2 weeks, solely relying on the little white book and nothing else. Well, and my own knowledge of RWS. So here's the deck. You've already seen it, I'm sure. I have to say the quality is quite impressive. I don't know what kind of cardstock this is. It's almost plasticky, but not. But it's lovely. And this is my first ever gilded tarot deck. I only have one other gilded deck, which is the Gilded Revelry Lenormand, but no gilded tarot decks until now. So it's beautiful, and it really feels like it's gonna stand up to wear because of this material. And this is only my second black and white deck. This is the first black and white deck I actually ordered, but the first one I received was the Skeleton Tarot. And I will say that I am growing a very quick appreciation for black and white tarot decks because I love the Skeleton Tarot, and I'm really loving these images. I at first thought, oh, is this going to be too much? Is this going to be sensory overload with all the detail? But not at all. Benebell's lines are so clean, in my opinion, that I have no trouble looking at the images and discerning the different details. She groups the cards into septenaries, or groups of 7, and the guidebook will inform you on the order of the cards, which differs a little bit from what you would expect. So you would expect the majors first, and then the minors and the quarts. Well, when you receive the deck, and if you haven't previously read the Book of Maps prior to receiving it, you will notice, oh, it's a little bit out of order. You've got the court cards kind of smack in the middle of the minors, and she explains why they're ordered that way. She provides 3 significator cards, which would be the traditional Fool card, and the Little White Book does explain that depending on where you are in your path to discovery, in your journey, that will influence which significator card you use. So you're either going to use the Initiate, Spirit in Search of Experience, the Seeker, Spirit in Search of Science, or the Keeper, Spirit in Petition of Spirit. So I'll give you a quick look at some of the cards. These are not in any order because I have been using them, but again, she goes through the majors, and then you have the minors, which starts off with what she calls the 7 upper realms. So you'll have the aces through the 3s, and then the court cards, or what she calls the Empyrean courts. So that's how the deck will be ordered. And then from there you go into the 7 lower realms, which are the minors 4s through 10s. In starting to work with this deck, I have only been asking it pretty specific questions because this deck hasn't called to me to use it for daily draws. My questions are pretty specific, and I have received very direct answers. So my experiences have been really enlightening, really wonderful, better than I thought it'd be, really. But for those of you who are working with this deck and have been using it for daily draws, I'd be interested in hearing in the comments below what your experiences have been with that. But again, for me, this just hasn't felt like that kind of deck for me, at least not yet. So after about 2 weeks of using just the Little White Book and my own knowledge of the RWS system to work with the deck, I decided to bring in the Book of Maps. And to be honest, I am not reading it cover to cover. I've been just kind of skipping around, but I did want the book because I am interested in learning about Benebell's specific intentions for the deck. Now, does this mean that I will use the deck exactly how Benebell intends? Probably not, and that's okay. Even if you're not interested in like occultism or the esoteric teachings that are infused in this deck, I'm finding that this is still an excellent book as a reference point for each of the cards, because provides a lot more detail about each card, the symbology, some of the stories behind the images, and I have been having a lot of fun reading about these cards. So even though I'm not particularly interested in a deep dive into occultism, I can still appreciate this information, and I think that others will be able to as well. The language she uses is quite accessible to everyone. At first I was worried because the theme of the deck is esoteric in nature. I was wondering if reading this would make me feel like I was back in in grad school theory class, but not the case at all. Not the case at all. It's been pretty smooth reading and I haven't had any trouble. So whenever Benebell's second print run is up and going and you want the deck, but perhaps you're feeling a little bit intimidated, you're feeling overwhelmed by the thought of this, or you're thinking to yourself, occultism is just not my bag, or connecting to Holy Guardian, Holy Angel, not my bag either. I just want to assure you that you don't have to let that stop you. This is just my personal opinion, but having kind of tested it out myself for a couple weeks, not using this, just using the deck and the little white book, I have found my experience to be awesome. And I don't feel like it's over my head using this deck at all. But no matter who you are and how you want to work with the deck, I still recommend that you get the Book of Maps. If anything, for the wonderful information she provides for each individual card. The keywords at the bottom are also helpful. Normally, I do not care for keywords on tarot decks, and I don't have any other tarot decks with key terms on them, but for this deck I do think they are quite helpful. So you have the keywords, you have the little white book, you have your own working knowledge of your preferred system, or you can forego all the systems and use your intuition. Benebell says this is worthless, but again, depending on your goal, it's not. You can use this as a stepping stone if you're finding like you just can't with this right now. I mean, it's a lot. I'd say start with this first and just start using the deck. Start using the deck, getting comfortable with it. I think you'll find that it won't take you too long to really get your stride in using it. And you're gonna have some great readings, and then you can ease into using this. So I hope this was helpful to you. Excuse me, especially those of you who might feel like you're on the fence about getting the deck when it is next available. I truly feel that Benebell has created a malleable deck for anyone to use, and I'm thrilled. I'm thrilled that I have it. I am actually surprised at how much I like this deck. I mean, I knew I'd like it okay, and I'd be able to appreciate it for its artistry and all the hard work that went into it. But I didn't realize it would have the effect on me that it has had. And so I'm just thrilled, over the moon. So thank you, Benebell, and drop me a comment below if you've already received your deck and have been working with it. Let me know how it's going for you. All right, everyone, take care. Bye-bye.